banks, they've been under continued pressure in the face of increasing regulation and deteriorating loan volume. Joining us right now from Palm Beach, Florida, is
Just
Bill Greene, BancTenn Corporation Chairman and CEO. And Bill, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You know, we've been talking about some of the smaller banks all week long. Jimmy Dunn was with us earlier this week, and he thinks that you're going to have 8,000 banks going to about 4,000 because of mergers and acquisitions related to more regulation. What do you think about that?
I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. I know Jimmy well. By the way, Bob, Jimmy Dunn and Seth and I are waiting for you on the first tee at Seminole. Get down here. It's 81 degrees.
I'll be there right away.
Okay. Just stop and think about this. In 1990, there were 15,000 banks in America. Today, there's 7,364. As you continue to have the crunch on community banks with all this overregulation, obviously, you have directors of various community banks and aging management that's has a high anxiety level. And so they're sitting around thinking, well, there's a new threshold, $1 billion. If you're not $1 billion, boy, you're not going to make it because you can't handle all the regulations and you don't have the legal staff to take care of you. So if you're, stop and think about this, 91% of the banks in America today are under $1 billion. You have 7,364 banks, 6,000 are under 500 million.
Wow.
So if you stop and talk about, well, what's going to happen to them, and they have to be at $1 billion, you got 6,000 banks sitting out there thinking, oh my gosh, what are we going to do next? So there's a lot of pressure on M&As right now. I don't think in the low earnings period you have, you'll see many in 12. 13, 14, and 15, as we begin to come out of this, I think you'll see that speed up and heat up.
Bill, that's an argument against regulation in whole. Is there a way to have more regulation on the bigger banks without affecting the smaller banks?
Well, you already have that. In the Dodd-Franks bill, it really is the Dodd-Franks Wall Street Protection Act and Consumer Protection Act. And it was passed mainly for the larger banks on Wall Street. Let me give you another statistic that's interesting. With the 7,364 banks, 4 banks in America control 40% of all assets. 5 banks control 55% of all assets, and less than 100 banks, or 1.2% of the banks in America, control 90% of the assets. So
is it
what you have...
Yeah, is it your concern, though, that by not having these smaller banks, there is a population that is debanked, that there are people who can't get a loan, who can't go in and find a bank?
No, I'm not. Well, yes, that is my concern. As a matter of fact, 76% of all people in America are employed by small business. And those small businesses, the smaller banks, what we call independent community banks, make 40% of all loans to small business, and they're only 10 or 12% of the total banking assets, and 61% of all loans under $1 million are made to small business from these 6,000 banks.
So I guess if there's a message that there's a concern about this, do you think it's one that's being heard by Washington right now?
No, I don't. As a matter of fact, Washington seems to have the mindset that one size fits all. That couldn't be further from the truth. Our model in independent banks and the model used on what I call transactional Wall Street as against relationship Main Street is totally different. There's no way rationally that the regulators should consider one size fits all. Just doesn't make sense.
Bill, I want to thank you very much for your time today, and we hope to get to see you back here again soon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.